This is the story of the Elk Busters. Come along as 8 guys from Wisconsin go on an October 2019 Colorado DIY public land bull elk hunt. And now let's meet this cast of characters. First off, we had hunt boss and master planner Steve Schrader, Jerry Wenzel, Chris Sawicki, John Marhefka, John Madrinsky, Bob Retlick, Gary Schrader, and Bill Wenzel. 5 of the 8 Elk Busters met near Madison at John and Shannon's house on October 8th. After a quick night's sleep, we were up and gone before the sunrise. We beat Madison traffic for the most part and traveled about an hour west of town. There, we joined the 3rd truck and trailer.
Buy some more.
Looks like you forgot a couple people.
Yeah, they were late, so I said.
You know? Hey, Steve.
I just filled up, so we're good to go.
Howdy.
Gentlemen,
Steve.
that's it.
I'm Jerry. Nice to meet you, Jerry. I'm Bob. Bob, nice to meet you, Bob. Bill. Bill. Chris.
John.
John, nice to meet you.
You bet.
We thought you were like one of Steve's imaginary friends or something. Wow, you actually showed up, huh? I'm just a guy they found actually in the gas station.
Right.
After some introductions, the 3 truck and trailer caravan hit the road headed west. Spirits were high, and radio communication from Elk Buster 1, Elk Buster 2, and Elk Buster 3 made the miles go quickly. As we headed through southwestern Wisconsin, Steve realized that even though he put the nozzle in his gas tank, he never filled his truck.
I just filled up, so we're.
After a quick gas stop, we rolled through Iowa, headed for Nebraska. We drove all day, and after sunset, we set our target on Ogallala, Nebraska.
Success on the mountain. Full freezers.
Success, however you define it.
We had 6 hours remaining, and the next day, we knew we were going to get bad weather and record cold temperatures. We hit Walmart the next morning for heavier clothes and heaters. As anticipated, the road conditions steadily worsened as we closed in on Denver.
4-wheel drive right now. We are barely even close to Denver. The roads are shit. But we're just taking our time and working our way through it. And what are you going to do? So, yeah, they're not the greatest. Not the greatest.
We saw several accidents along the way, including this vehicle upside down with a trailer. Good way to ruin a hunt. Road conditions steadily improved as we got west of Denver. We stopped in the ski town of Vail for lunch. The drive around Glenwood Springs was simply breathtaking.
All right, our highway travels are complete.
There.
We're in Silt. Now we've got about an hour ride up the mountain to our campsite. Supposed to get about 9 degrees tonight, so it's gonna be a little chilly. We're not certain. We're half expecting some snow at the campsite. We'll see when we get up there.
This was our first encounter with open range cattle. The entire mountains that we hunted were full of cattle tracks and cattle droppings. It took a solid hour of driving on this narrow switchback mountain road to reach our base camp at 9,600 feet. As anticipated, there was an inch or two of snow on the ground when we got to camp. With single-digit temperatures, there was certainly a business-like focus to get our shelters up before nightfall. This climbing tree stand with a toilet seat was one of our 2 latrines for the week. We all survived the bitterly cold night and were treated with blue skies for the rest of the trip. Guys slept with contact cases and cell phones in their sleeping bag to prevent things from freezing, and we ran heaters in the trailers to prevent all of our liquids from bursting. Thankfully, the 9-degree overnight temperatures would not return, although there were a night or two still in the teens. We had a full day before our season started, so we finished up setting up camp on Friday. Temperatures gradually warmed during our week on the mountain. Daytime highs were typically in the 50s with lows in the 20s or 30s.
How's it going, Chef?
Oh, it's going. It's camp cooking at its finest. It's not quite as easy as home. Doesn't turn out like home, but it's edible.
Tastes the same. Or better, because you're out in, the woods of Colorado.
Mountain eating. Al fresco.
It was a bit concerning when our scouting on Friday failed to reveal any elk sightings, tracks, or droppings. Despite the lack of sign we saw during scouting, we were cautiously optimistic the afternoon before opening day. The 8 men generally split up into 4 two-person teams, with each pair hunting the same general area. None of the hunters had seen any fresh elk tracks or droppings during the morning hunt, so we decided to get in the trucks and move to different elevations to try to find the elk. Despite being able to see for miles, glassing revealed no elk. It was beautiful country, a combination of aspen stands, open meadows, oak scrub, and dark timber. Blowdowns were a significant issue within the evergreen dark timber. This set of tracks was made the day we arrived in camp. The tracks were in the snow, but there were some snow in the tracks themselves, along with some droppings. It was the freshest elk sign I would see in 17 to 20 miles of walking that I did during the hunt. 4 guys from Tennessee were camped about a mile from us. They used ATVs to access remote areas that were too far to access by foot. They ended up harvesting 2 bulls and saw a total of 3 elk during their hunt. One of the men had been hunting the area every other year for nearly 30 years and said he had never seen this few animals.
What you doing, John?
Drying my
John Maud spilt a bottle of water into his camp chair, soaking himself. His attempts to dry off provided some comic relief in camp. Despite the total lack of sign, which was getting discouraging, the guys continued to hit the hills and increasingly focused on the dark timber, where we felt the elk were hiding. It was very difficult to move quietly through these evergreen patches.
Day 4 of the elk hunt. The reason you haven't seen a whole lot of footage is, quite honestly, there hasn't been anything happening. So Got 8 guys, probably 150 miles on foot and about 100 miles in a truck, and had yet to see an elk. So we were pretty discouraged. Plan was to pull a day early, head out. That may or may not still happen. And sitting around the campfire this evening, and one of our more adventurous hunters went into some of the nastiest stuff you could think of and ended up shooting a bull. So built the meat pole and crews out helping them. I think it's gonna be a long evening and night based on where he said. So it's at about 9,600 feet. They got to get it up to about 10,200 feet in order to get to a semi-level path anyway. So, okay, we're at 10,200 feet. We're bringing out the game carts to retrieve John Mod's bull. So it's about a mile, and they got about 600 feet where the bull is to get it up to this relatively easy walking contour. So it's gonna be a hell of a project.
John Mod earned this 5x5 bull by consistently getting as far away from camp as possible, not being afraid of vertical drops, and getting into some thick timber. There was another bull with this bull, and those would be the only 2 elk the Elk Busters would see. Steve and Chris went to help John butcher the animal and start the packing process. Jerry decided to go down to the bull. Bob and I found a 100-foot near vertical drop that stopped us in our tracks. We were treated to a gorgeous sunset and moonrise, and after a couple of hours, the packing crew made it to the top of the mountain.
Brother?
Awesome.
You earned that one.
Holy shit, dude, these guys are fucking animals. Holy shit. Oh,
Those are some REI rad trekking poles.
I know, dude, these are
I made them
organic.
organic.
These are 100% organic trekking
I
poles.
love it. I even put my initials on them somewhere.
Yeah, Gary and John.
What do you want?
Put the blackberry in ice.
Blackberry is on ice already. It's in my cooler.
Well, you brought blackberry?
Absolutely.
Can I leave a radio here?
Back at camp, we hoisted the quarters onto the meat pole.
Yeah.
Another quarter of meat, the antlers, and miscellaneous trimmings were still in the woods and would need to be retrieved the next day.
Don't get me wrong, mine's a freaking giant.
We enjoyed some ice-cold Chinooka blackberry around the campfire and shared stories of the hunt.
Oh, I just needed. Yeah.
The following morning, John, and Steve went down and retrieved the rest of the meat as the remainder of the hunters began to break down camp. Chris and Bob cooked up an awesome hot breakfast, which was ready for when the guys got back with the meat. The Elk Buster adventure had come to an end. While the elk weren't as plentiful as we had hoped, it was a great adventure in beautiful country with a great group of guys. Long-standing relationships were strengthened and new relationships were formed. As we rolled out of camp on that final day, thoughts were already churning about future adventures. Elk Busters 2019 had a safe and successful hunt with memories that will last a lifetime. Before we got out of Colorado, Chris and I needed to educate Officer Castillo that in Wisconsin, utility trailers don't need license plates. As we headed eastward toward home, the rising sun signaled the beginning of a new day, but the end of a memorable journey.